In the first weekend of January 2023, a killer doll movie called Megan opened to $30 million and made $180 million worldwide. Hollywood noticed. For years, January was the month studios used as a dumping ground, and now suddenly, it was the best real estate in horror. So, a year later, the two biggest names in the genre made their play. Jason Blum and James Wan merged Blumhouse and Atomic Monster on January 2nd, 2024. And 3 days after the ink dried, their first movie as one company hit theaters. It was about a haunted swimming pool. Audiences gave it 1 star. And the frustrating thing is, Night Swim should have worked. It's built on one of the oldest fears we've got: dark water and no way to see what's under you. Buried in that premise is a hook with real teeth, a dying man who gets stronger every time he swims, and a pool that heals him and quietly wants paying back. So let's get into how a viral short from a pop star's backyard became the flagship of horror's biggest merger, and why the movie keeps flinching from its one great idea. Back in October of 2014, a writer named Bryce McGuire and his buddy Rod Blackhurst borrow a backyard for the night. It belongs to the singer Michelle Branch. They shoot a little short there. Megalyn, a chicken woke, goes for a night swim, and something in the deep end drags her under. It runs 4 minutes, hits YouTube, blows up, and does what a great calling card short does.
It's that kid! It's the I didn't do it guy!
McGuire lands a career in Hollywood. The idea came straight out of his own childhood. McGuire's a Florida kid. He saw Jaws at 10, then spent nights in the family pool after his brother killed the lights. Sure, something was rising toward him from 9 feet down. That's the pitch. And if you grew up near a pool, you felt it too. An Atomic Monster executive named Judson Scott showed the short to James Wan, who bought the rights. The feature got moving in January of 2023, right after Megan blew up. McGuire would direct his own script. The leads were set. Wyatt Russell as Ray Waller, a former Major League ball player forced to retire by multiple sclerosis, and Carrie Condon as his wife, Eve. Then, 2 weeks after they announced her, Condon picked up an Oscar nomination for The Banshees of Inisherin. On paper, this thing kept looking better. And the Russell casting hides my favorite bit of trivia. Before he was an actor, Wyatt Russell was a professional hockey goalie. His career got cut short by injury. So they cast an ex-athlete who lost his sport to his own body to play an ex-athlete who lost his sport to his own body. Nobody in the marketing ever mentioned it. I love that. Filming kicked off on April the 11th, 2023 and ran 34 days around Los Angeles, mostly at a real house in Altadena with a 9-foot pool, plus 4 days in a 13-foot Olympic pool for the deep stuff. Credit where it's due, McGuire shot in real water. Actual actors actually holding their breath on wider lenses, so a backyard pool felt like an open ocean. In his words, water is twice as slow, twice as expensive, and twice as dangerous as shooting on dry land. The budget came in at $15 million. Standard Blumhouse math. Universal slotted it for January the 19th, 2024, then yanked it up 2 weeks into the weekend Megan had printed money the year before. It hit theaters January 5th. The first release from the newly combined studio opened to $12 million. Second place. First place went to Wonka, a Timothée Chalamet chocolate musical that had been out since mid-December. Megan had opened to $30 million in this same slot a year earlier, so the debut did less than half the business of the movie it was chasing. Then the exit polls came in and told the whole story. A C from CinemaScore, 1 star from PostTrack. Word of mouth was dead by Saturday. The second weekend fell off a cliff. Universal shoved it onto digital 18 days after release, and the worldwide total landed around $55 million on a $15 million budget. So, yeah, it made money. Blumhouse movies almost always make money. It's everything around the money that should have scared them. So here's where it starts coming apart. The gap between that short and this feature. This short is one clean idea. A person, a pool, the dark, the slow realization that the water wants something. 4 minutes is the right size for that. But to fill 98, McGuire bolted a whole haunted house movie on top, and you already know every beat. A family moves in, dad starts acting strange, the kids see things, mom digs into the house's history, and a survivor from the past turns up to explain the lore. Variety called it the Amityville horror in a swimming pool, which is the problem in one line. Every beat got lifted out of movies about haunted houses and pasted onto a puddle. And there's a second problem. problem, one baked in before anyone typed a word. A haunted pool is a monster that can't move. It sits right where they poured it, and anyone it wants dead can just take 2 steps back and be fine.
What?
Jaws works because you have to get in the ocean. Christine works because the car can follow you home. Maguire's named both as inspirations, so the script burns its runtime inventing reasons to get somebody back in the water. Therapy for Ray, then a pool party, then a game of Marco Polo, then, I'm not kidding, the cat falls in. By the 3rd act, it's begging these people to be idiots, and you can feel a theater checking out. The movie's own ending backs me up, and I'll get there. Then there's the rating, and this one really stings because it was a choice. Night Swim is PG-13.
Y'all killing me with this.
Built so the whole family can go, which means anything with real teeth got filed down. The scares are telegraphed a mile off, and the creature, when you finally get a good look, is a soggy CGI ghoul that gets less scary every time it shows up. Water horror lives on dread, on held breath, and bad visibility, and dread is the one thing a movie made for everybody won't sit still long enough to build. Critics landed at 19% on Rotten Tomatoes, most saying there wasn't enough here to fill a feature. Audiences on the same site sat in the low 40s, a little kinder, but not by much. Everywhere else fell in line, 4.7 on IMDb, 1.7 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and a flat 43 on Metacritic. For once, critics and audiences weren't even arguing. Everyone just shrugged at the same time. But underneath all that is the failure I actually care about. The wasted hook. Ray Waller is dying of something with no cure, and the pool takes it away. His swing comes back. He trains again, getting stronger and stranger at once. That's a devil's bargain. One of the best engines in horror, and it only pays off if the guy learns the price and keeps paying it anyway. Night Swim hands that idea to a side character. There's one scene, where Jodie Long plays the previous owner, a mother who fed her own daughter to that water to save her dying son. She plays it with a cold the rest of the movie spends 90 minutes chasing. Ray never gets a moment like that. The pool takes him over, and a man becomes a puppet.
It's so cool in the deep. Well, I'd like to punch him in the face.
This movie had a devastating little character study sitting in its lap, and it went with a ghost train instead. Okay, quick plot rundown. Full spoilers. Jump ahead a minute if you still want it fresh. We open in 1992. A girl named Rebecca wades into the family pool to grab her sick brother's toy boat, and the pool takes her. Cut to 30 years later. The Wallers buy the house. Ray's got MS, and a chipper pool guy explains the pool runs at a natural spring that never needs refilling, which in a horror movie is a screaming red flag. He starts swimming, his symptoms fade, and something moves in behind his eyes. The cat vanishes. Both kids get grabbed in the water. At a pool party, a possessed Ray takes Marco Polo somewhere very dark and nearly drowns a guest. Eve tracks down Rebecca's mother, who lays out the rules. It is an ancient healing spring with a guardian in it. Every cure costs a life, and she traded her own daughter to save her son. Back home, the thing takes over Ray and drags Elliot into a black void under the pool. Eve dives after him, and Izzy swings a bat at her possessed dad, which, for this family, tracks. Rebecca's ghost leads them up, and Ray ends it by offering himself instead. The water takes the deal. He's gone. They stay so nobody else buys the place, and fill the pool with concrete. The monster gets beaten by landscaping. I told you, the ending agreed with me. Alright, a few things here do work. That 1992 opening is tight and mean. Basically the original short with a real budget and the best scene in the film. A close second is that Marco Polo scene, built on held breath and social panic instead of a music sting. And Universal knew it, because that's the clip they ran everywhere. Wyatt Russell goes all in, as a man desperate to get his body back. And there's a nasty glint during the possession scenes that hints at a meaner movie. Carrie Condon is way too good for a role that's mostly worried looks and Googling. Jodie Long walks off with her one scene, and Mark Corvin, who scored The Witch and The Lighthouse, wrote music that sounds like it's rising out of the water. scarier than anything on screen. The real water photography gives the pool a weight computer effects rarely manage, and then the rest of it thins out. Izzy and Elliot barely exist as people. The mythology gets messier the more it explains, because a pagan spring guarded by a water fairy handing out miracle cures is a lot to swallow in one scene. Its tone sits in a dead zone, too serious to be fun and too soft to scare anybody older than 12.
What the fuck is that?
And the ending rushes Ray's sacrifice so badly that the emotional payoff, the reason you'd stretch this into a family drama, barely registers. So here's my honest verdict. Night Swim is competent and hollow. The kind of horror movie that evaporates on the drive home. A year from now, I'll remember the pool guy and the Marco Polo scene. Everything else is gone. And there's one thing that kept bugging me the whole time. For most of 2024, Night Swim was Blumhouse's highest grossing movie, holding that spot until Speak No Evil passed it in the fall. Sit with that. The studio behind Get Out and Five Nights at Freddy's spent 3/4 of a year with a 1-star pool movie as its biggest hit. Imaginary came out in March. Reviews just as bad. Afraid showed up in August with no critic screenings and vanished. Speak No Evil was the only one critics liked. And even so, 2024 was the first year in forever without a Blumhouse movie crossing 100 million worldwide. Then Wolfman face-planted the next January. So that's 2 straight years opening with a dud. Now, Night Swim did not cause any of that on its own. It just set the tone. 3 days into the merger, for a run where the Horror Factory kept shipping product and audiences kept noticing the gap between product and actual movies. The version I keep playing in my head is tiny. Lose the fairy and keep the possession. Keep the spring. A man is dying. The water is making him better. And one afternoon, he learns exactly what it'll cost him. And he keeps swimming anyway. Tells himself he'll find a way out before the bill comes due. That's a $2 million movie in one location, and it would be almost unbearable in the best way. You can see it flickering in Russell's hungry eyes and Jodie Long's confession. The short, prove Maguire can terrify you in 4 minutes. The feature proves 98 is a different sport.